It was called Glocal. Global and local coming together. We are a concierge for anything you need in your city.
And everybody sees this massive opportunity.
But now you know that it's 100% reliable. It's going to come in 7 minutes. You order the Parmesan cheese.
Do you sell it as premium?
A country GM just didn't listen, went ahead and tested.
When I order something, I usually want it fast. I don't want it in 1 hour or 1.5 hours. What are the biggest markets for Rappi now?
Mexico, Brazil, Colombia.
What do you think makes Rappi different?
Most of our features and product releases are user-driven. What I really think makes Rappi different is our people and our mindset. Like Rappi's winner mindset.
Could you please share what do you think is important to track, and what do you track on weekly, daily, or monthly basis?
Our North Star is order rate.
Hello, everyone, and it's Stefan Soroka back on Bolanga podcast, and I'm very excited for today's conversation because today we have Paulo Rebolledo, who is Senior Vice President of Rappi for Restaurants and Retail. And I'm very excited to meet you, Paulo, and I'm super excited about our conversation today, which is going to be a lot about LATAM, a lot about Rappi, and a lot about retail and restaurants. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stefan. Actually, super excited to be here with you. So looking forward to our conversation today.
Likewise. Thank you, Paulo, for finding time. And for the start, if you could please share a bit about yourself with our listeners, about your journey at Rappi. You're one of the early employees of the venture, and your journey is quite exciting.
Sure, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I'm a Senior Vice President at Rappi. Let's say I started my career, I'm an engineer and an economist. I started my career in oil and gas, creating models to predict like energy spot prices. Then I went abroad for a couple of years, lived in Europe, US, did an MBA. And then after that, landed at Rappi almost 7 years ago. And since then, it's been quite a ride. And I've done a little bit of everything, to be honest. I started as a city manager, where the goal was growing 20% month over month, no matter what. Then I had the opportunity to join and help build the central growth team, where the core mission was, again, to grow 20% month over month, but it was not now like just only my city, but the whole company. So pretty hectic and amazing years there. Then after that, I took on the challenge of leading the retail vertical, where the goal was, again, to grow the retailer sales across LATAM, but now making sure that we were profitable while doing so, you know. And during this period, we also launched our quick commerce vertical called Rappi Turbo, which, to be honest, was a game changer for us. And it already became part of our core business today. And now I'm just recently taking over my newest challenge in the company, that is leading the restaurant vertical, and which, you know, is super exciting because this is still our largest business. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And I'm very much looking forward to this conversation because LATAM is a very, very diverse place. And Rappi specifically is a company that is running a few quite diverse businesses, right? You have a bank, you have a retail arm, you have restaurant operations. As a marketplace, you run your own logistics, right? For restaurants and for retail. Could you please share how do you guys manage to build different products and offer different value propositions in different geographies? How do you make these decisions? How do you build teams? What is the secret sauce of Rappi?
Sure. That's a great question. With like we could talk for hours, no, about it. But I guess couple of things. Food delivery is a hyper local business, right? And the way you win in a business like that is doing exactly that. So it's going hyper local. So we strive to hire people that, of course, share our culture and passion, but that are deeply ingrained and like well connected in the markets, not only at a country level, but specifically at a city level, so that they can actually help us build long-term, like deep meaningful relationships with our partners, right? The challenge then is how to keep like a lean operation if you want to have a local presence. And the way we try to go about it is you need to have like a very strong frontline team. That frontline is essentially the commercial, but we have a bit more there, with a GM that inspires them like no one else. No? That's what you need on the local team. Then having a robust Steltron team that can build capabilities, but that can also execute on a city level. And then what you do is you try to empower the GMs to have, so that they can have like agency, let's say, over capital allocation and central execution over their markets. So it's a quite like interesting dynamic, and no one is ever gonna get it like perfectly right. I'm making this joke now in the company all the time, that I went through to this McDonald's event that is called the McDonald's Worldwide this year in Barcelona.
Okay.
And amazing, 15,000 people, like huge event. And there was one stand and one session that it was called global and local coming together, and this whole narrative around how they needed to work better. And it's 70-year company, I think actually like 85 from its inception. So it's a never-ending discussion, but this has worked pretty well for us, and that strategy on going hyper local in the countries and cities. And then regarding like the market proposition, so some things are always going to be like core to our central strategy, which is essentially building an objectively superior product in every microzone that we operate. That's the core thing that we aim to do. And it's going to revolve around our flywheel, right? So merchant assortment, user experience, affordability, speed, quality of order delivery. And that there are no like concessions there, that's going to happen in every single market, in every city, in every zone. But then we need to tropicalize that for every market. And usually it's based on three things. That is the maturity of the market, the competition of the market, and the local nuance that can, give us a tailwind or a headwind for operation. So in some markets, we invest aggressively in marketing and exclusive merchant content. In others, we invest more in other verticals. I can give you a concrete example. In Brazil, we face at the beginning also competition with a huge incumbent player that was already pretty big in restaurant delivery. So part of our strategy was focused on the gaps on the market, leveraging on like our competitive advantages, and particularly in the grocery delivery technology for the marketplace. And today, that's our only market where retail is a larger vertical than the restaurants. That is our core business in the rest, and things like that.
Very interesting. And I really like the local idea, and the fact that you need to tropicalize and to adjust to the market needs. And actually have a question about it, but a little bit later. Yeah. Before I jump into that, I wanted to ask you about grocery retail. And as you were running Rappi Turbo, it is becoming a new red ocean, right? It was a vertical of growth for you, and it's bigger in Brazil, but it's already the place where all the competition is seeing massive potential, right? And it's also the place where things are, the stakes are just much higher, right? And you don't just have the marketplaces who are fighting for the place under the sun in this specific field, but also the offline retailers, right? Who don't want to lose their customers and don't want to lose their revenues. And everybody sees this massive opportunity, right? So how do you navigate with Rappi? How do you make it one of your key advantages and build it into such a success that you mentioned, the turbo business, that is now an essential part of Rappi? And what do you see in the future for this vertical?
That's a great question. So, couple of things. So first, for Rappi, I think it's a bit different than for other comparable companies, in the sense that actually we started as a super app from inception, no? So we were doing grocery delivery since day one. That being said, like doing proper grocery like delivery on demand with a marketplace is far more complex than it sounds. So initially we didn't have the right tech to be honest, but we were doing it either way. So that's a little bit different for us because we've been on it since the beginning, whereas other players like really focus on their core like restaurant business and then leverage that to expand, which the different strategies with pros and cons each. But in our case, so today retail is still our like fastest growing vertical. You have supermarkets and shops in the marketplace growing more than 20% year over year, where like
Nice.
the industry has actually stagnated below those numbers. And then Turbo growing 100% year over year. That it's still a smaller part of the business, but we have big plans for it. And the other thing is that in LATAM, the opportunity is still huge and it's underpenetrated. You have like grocery, not overall retail, but grocery specifically, online delivery in Latin America is the penetration of the TAM is around 3 to 4%, with Brazil maybe at 5% leading. And then
Wow.
you have North America is 10, 12%. Europe, I think, is between like 8 and 12, with UK, of course, leading, North America, US leading. And then you have like Asia, with China, South Korea, 20, 30%, like
Yeah, that's
a bit more advanced. Yeah,
different story.
it's a different story. So the opportunity is huge. And the expectation is that market is going to grow 5x in the next 6 years.
Fantastic.
So someone is going to grab that opportunity. Um, and then, so what we're doing there is for Turbo, it's simple because it's going all in, and a couple of things that means a couple of different things is we started the year averaging 1,200 SKUs per store. We're already at 2,000, and we're going to do 4x that in the next, I
Oh
don't know, 12
wow.
months or
In
something like that. So
SKUs,
it's, yeah,
there's gonna be
that's,
over
that's,
40.
that's, no, 4x. I meant like, so we're in 2,000. The idea is to go
Okay.
almost to 8,000. We
Okay.
already have stores with 5,000 that really operate well. You see the improvement in frequency. You see that the stickiness. You see the AOV there. That the economics get better. So we're gonna just increase that size of the portfolio. We're gonna continue expanding. So at least 80 more stores in the next 12 months, and just try to really make it super easy for the users to try the new vertical. No, that's when 1,000 other things that we're trying to do to make the user experience better and so on and so forth. But the service is so good that we just want to double that one. And what do I mean by so good? Because I know you know a ton of around quick commerce around the world, but like I do believe that our speed is particularly good in that sense that the promise is 10 minutes and 80% of the orders are delivered under that. The average time is actually 8 minutes. No? And you say 80% is not amazing yet, but when you take it up to 15 minutes, it's 95% of the orders. So we are almost getting there. No?
And that's
Sorry,
amazing.
you were going to say something?
Yeah, and that's amazing. But do you think that the time, specifically like these 10 minutes or 15 minutes, does it really a differentiating factor for the customer? Because there were a lot of, quick commerce time chasers in Europe that raised a bunch of money, and time was not enough. Of course, things in Europe are not the same as in LATAM. And if we go market to market, there are many differences across the whole globe. But still, is it such an important factor, you think? What do you see from the customers? And what do you do? What have you learned from the mistakes that were done in Europe? Because most of the companies retreated from Europe, right? It's only GoPuff in UK and Flink.
Yeah, and Getir is now only in
Only
Turkey,
in
right?
Turkey.
And yeah, a couple of other. No, we've discussed that infinitely. So yeah. So great. That's a great question. So a couple of things there. regarding time, we had all of this same discussion at the beginning, and initially we're even like when we were like proposing, let's say the project, we were thinking more about GoPuff, like 30-minute delivery or something like that, because we started like with some liquors, specific dark stores and things like that. But then like Simone and our CEO, as soon as he saw that there was like the economics would work and that there was something there, he was like, guys, it's 10 minutes. 10 minutes is going to be the magic. And we went a lot of back and forth with this, like how important is it? And the great thing about our companies is that we have a ton of data and we can measure, no? So we actually did measure, and it was pretty clear that when you like, because the magic of Turbo was the impact in the order rate. The order rate is essentially like the user retention multiplied times the user frequency, right? So when a user tries Turbo, the order rate improves dramatically, like not only for Turbo, but for the whole like a Rappi ecosystem. And several reasons for that. So it's a perfect service, no stockouts, controlled environment. But time accounted like for 60% of that improvement. And you would see it because we did some tests where you would expand radiuses to deliver in 20 minutes, things like that. And up until 15 minutes, you see the drop in the retention rate. So after testing, different A/B tests, in different set of experiments, it became really clear that the impact of the speed is massive. And it's not obvious, no? Because why do you need something like that? And most people think about urgency. So it's urgency. So it's for an urgent use case. And that's not really the case. That's, of course, one use case. But what is magic is this almost streaming of product sensation that is the instant gratification. So the perfect use case is, yeah, and you have your pasta ready, and you just realize that you don't have the Parmesan cheese. Before you wouldn't have ordered, and it's not an like an emergency. You're not going to die if you don't have it. But now you know that it's 100% reliable. It's going to come in 7 minutes. You order the Parmesan cheese, and or the avocado with the perfect ripeness for the day, just a couple of minutes before you eat.
100%. But at the same time, do you sell it as premium, or it comes at a cost, right? Because you have to have your couriers always waiting in front of the Turbo store and to be able to deliver on a quite limited range, right? How do you manage these economics? Because you mentioned that it was quickly proven that the economics works and you should scale it.
That was in the model at first, no? But yeah.
Okay. But still, what are the steps that you guys are taking to make it work? Because it is an expensive model, right? You need to invest into locations. You need to be very careful with locations. You need to invest into stock, into people operating it, and couriers who are waiting in front of the store, and many, many things to think about, like spoilage of what you don't have in the marketplace business, right? So it is a very complicated thing, right? And grocery is not the place with the most generous margin. So how do you do that?
Absolutely. And I'll tie it up also with your question about like the difference maybe with other companies and what have we learned. So first of all, Rappi is and was like uniquely positioned to win in a segment like this for several factors. No? So first, LATAM is a good market for this, in the sense that you can look at it in several different ways, but one that we really like is the ratio between the AOV and the delivery cost. It's roughly 10x for us, while in Europe,
nice.
In India, I think it's like 7-8x. In Europe, is 3 to 5x. So that's already like some specific factor there. But then specifically on Turbo, the difference between a standalone company trying to do a quick commerce and someone with a Rappi ecosystem is that first, the customer acquisition costs are much, much lower because you are cross-selling users since the beginning. Second, regarding the couriers, the courier acquisition cost, of course, is lower, but then the like dynamics that you need to make it work for the density of couriers are also simpler because first, you already have them. And they can be not only delivering turbo, but you have a McDonald's nearby, a pharmacy nearby. So they're already making a lot of orders. And to your question on, hey, but you need to have the couriers waiting there. One of the key things that changed the economics for us was when we like figure out how to have always a courier there, but not with 100% of the cost. And how you do that, we essentially like this is a simplification, no? But we have a machine learning model that predicts when are we going to have those orders. We send the courier before that order with the right amount of time for them to wait there, and they don't need to wait more than 30 seconds, a minute to receive the order. And if we failed and there was not an order, we need to pay for that. But as long as you have enough density on demand, you will like spend less and less and less and less until you are doing a point where you have 95% accuracy, and then that extra 5% it's that you can cover that. No, so when you put all of that together with, of course, like relentless like operational excellence, because like shrinkage, it's 80% of that is taking what retailers all over the world already do good and doing it, but then maybe not 80 is too much, but let's say 60, and then the other 40 is creativity also, because you can have automatic discounts, with connected push notifications when you're going to have shrinkage in specific products. So you try to like surface the demand depending on the necessities of the moment. And that's something that the marketplace allows you to do.
Very interesting. Thank you very much for sharing so many insights. You're currently on a lot of markets within LATAM, right? You're from Colombia. I mean, Rappi is from Colombia, and you're live in Mexico, in Brazil, and many, many markets. What are the biggest markets for Rappi now, the biggest markets of focus? And maybe you can share some expansion plans or some of your plans for the next year. I read recently there were a couple of press releases about you guys doubling down on Rappi Turbo on several markets, and you're investing into Argentina, and you're committing to long-term growth. Maybe you can shed some light around that.
Yeah, sure. We're currently in 9 markets in LATAM. Our biggest markets are Mexico, Brazil, Colombia. But we're super excited also about Argentina. So Peru is a core market for us also. So we really we are really proud of, to be focusing on LATAM. And for the moment, we're solely focused on LATAM. That could change in the future, of course. But our current plan is to consolidate our leadership in some key markets, like, for example, Mexico. That said, we do plan to continue expanding in Central America, where markets like Panama or Dominican Republic are super attractive for us. But we're still defining next steps. And that's not a priority in the sense that we know that we can still have we still have so much value to extract from our current markets that's our main focus today.
Fantastic. When we spoke with you offline, you told a lot of funny stories about the application of the tool of yours that you're providing to customers, and how you were finding very interesting use cases where people were ordering the couriers to come and be a goalie. I think it was in Brazil. Maybe you can share some of those implications in LATAM, because you don't really hear these stories every day. And it's very interesting to see culturally how people think and what they find in your convenience app, right? Because in the end of the day, it's the super app that you mentioned that Rappi was from day one. But even for the companies who are concentrating only on food delivery, like Glovo, they're still becoming a convenience app where you also have dark store delivery, and when you have grocery, and where you can just send a courier to ship something like keys to the office or some package to someone. And it's growing more and more. Like DoorDash is going into heavy bulky things. Please share what are the stories and the use cases from LATAM.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, we saw everything you can possibly think of, and I think that speaks a lot, like to the spirit and the mindset of the company also. No, but most of these cases came from one specific like service that is really actually loved from our like by our like most loyal user base, and it's what we call it like Rappi Favor. That can translate like to Rappi Favor, more or less. Is essentially errands, no? But the concept behind it was we are a concierge for anything you need in your city, anything you need. So
Nice.
it was, and since it was like pretty open ended, so we started getting all of these like particular use cases. For example, there was one that everyone like loved, and is that we had a couple of guys that hired a rapitendero. Rapitendero is how we call our couriers, um, to be the fourth man in a 2 against 2 FIFA match, literally to play PlayStation, and that like we did a lot of noise around it. Was super funny. We had the situation in Brazil that you mentioned, that most of Brazilians, as you probably know, are amazing at football, no? But they have this particular thing that they don't like to play as goalkeepers. So we
Yeah.
started getting these use cases where people would place orders to get a courier just to play as a goalie for an hour, and it's actually cheap enough if you're paying between a couple of people. And it happened so much that we actually launched a button in the app. You would enter, and it was like it was called goalie, but in Portuguese, with a soccer or a football ball there, and just one click, and you could hire directly. And then others that actually
Amazing.
became like real use cases. For example, we started getting a lot of users asking for cash directly, cash. So cash meaning like go and retrieve money from an ATM. So we also ended up launching a service called Rappi Cash. That's essentially 20-minute delivery of cash to your house. And today is still a part of the business, grows nicely.
Fantastic.
Is really interesting because you can, you charge it to a credit card, but we go and do it. And getting the network to do that, like the ATMs, the fraud detection systems, the
Right.
management of cash, and
Yeah.
it's like a moat for us because it's not simple to do.
For sure. And it's a lot of responsibility, but it's very interesting how you find these use cases. And if I understood right, the customers are just directly asking you for something. And how does it work? If you have enough of the requests from customers, you just deliver it? I mean, the feature, the new.
I mean, it's one way. Like most of our most of our features and product releases are user driven. We have this frontline obsession mentality, and always be listening to our users. And Rappi is a little bit like the story of Rappi is a little bit like that. Like when the company started, the original use case was the corner store. So like we can deliver what you want from the corner store. But we were so lucky that we left a space that was the Rappi Favor or Rappi Antojo. Antojo is like craving in English. It was called at
Okay.
the moment. We were so lucky that we left that empty box there, and we quickly realized that everyone was asking for restaurant delivery and
Okay.
not for corner store. So we like switched very fast to, hey, we need to find out how we can deliver restaurants, no, at the beginning. So I mean, it depends on the use cases. You need to have enough frequency for it to make sense, and the economics of the project work. But just in general, we are always willing to try new things, and we've learned, no, throughout the process. And the best way to do it is, you have this theory that I think is Jim Collins always talks about, that is 1,000 bullets and then cannonballs, no? So the idea is how you experiment small but good enough so you can learn, and where you find the product market fit or that it makes sense, then you scale. And at the beginning, we may have not done it always like that and scale faster than we should, but it's part of the process.
For sure. Try fast, fail faster, right? And
Total.
it feels like it's part of your culture. And my question would be, what do you think makes Rappi different? What is it about Rappi and your culture? What is in your core of the values that drives people to try these things, to innovate, to learn new things, and to bring in this innovation into your product and to your customers? Because you need to have like a certain level of curiosity, right? You need to have a certain level of freedom within the company and the certain level of enthusiasm to enable people to find these gems that you're constantly finding.
Absolutely. Like, you know what? And it's a good question. Like what I really think makes Rappi different is our people and our mindset. Like Rappi's winner mindset for me at least is unique, and you can think about it in those two like ways. So with people, we usually look like for three things. You know, first IQ, second cultural fit, and cultural fit is for us, I think it's essentially grit. You know, people with this combination of passion and perseverance. That is passion is key because it's so hard on the day to day that if you don't have passion for it and you don't enjoy it, you will eventually give up. So that piece
Right.
is key. And then down the road, we learned that there was a third component that's super important. That is people that could connect to the mission. You know, that are actually going to do the work for something a little bit bigger. Because that you need to be inspired also to work in an environment like this. And then in terms of the mindset and what you were asking, like we have these. We don't talk about like Rappi values, but we talk about the company virtues, and it's this concept that I think it comes from a book from Ben Horowitz, that the samurai called their virtues. Their principles, sorry, like virtues rather than values, because virtues are what you do, values are what you believe in, you know? So it's this concept of what you do is who you are and things like that. And two of our, and we have like a set of 11 virtues that are super important that hopefully drive our behavior. But there are two that for me are key. And one of our fundamental virtues is this having a champion's mindset, that is thinking of ourselves as like high performance athletes. And that's essentially like this capacity to see obstacles as opportunities to grow, then with like total ownership of the situation, because there are so many excuses available, no? Like half of the things you don't control. So you need to have that total ownership and taking control of your destiny. That tied with this like inherent belief that you can actually be the best in the world. You know, one of our mantras is we're going to become a world-class operators and things like that. It's super important because actually we are competing with the best minds in the world and with the best companies in the world and with the deepest pockets in the world. So you need to believe that. So that champions mindset mentality is super important. And then the other one is the virtue is actually called like dare greatly, you know, daring greatly. That is essentially going for the biggest stuff you can think of. And I think those two together are like an interesting combination.
Love it. You guys are innovating a lot. What are you working on now? What is going to be the next Rappi Favor or something that is coming up soon? Are you cooking something?
So we have a couple of pretty cool projects in the that are cooking, but there is one that we already launched and I think it's super exciting, and it's taking everything we learned with Turbo and put it in restaurants. So we already launched a vertical that is called Turbo Restaurants. Okay. And it's essentially delivering McDonald's crisp, hot fries to your door in 9 minutes.
Okay.
And again, we thought it couldn't be done, but it's how we essentially took the tech that really worked with Turbo, then picked a couple of few partners that were committed to, you know, have the food ready, prepared, have the proper setup so that the exchange could be really, really fast. And it's been like amazing because essentially it's this new product.
You already tested it?
No, we already launched it. And in some countries like Argentina is 10% of the order volume.
Oh, wow.
Amazing. Yep.
Wow.
And sorry,
did you
go on.
launch it? When did you launch it? I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, no worries. I think it's like 8 months ago, a year ago. Test started like a year ago, let's say,
Okay.
but we really just began a sprint in the last 6 months. Because
Okay.
still, it was, to be honest, like the like the leadership, like the message was, guys, like let's focus. We're not gonna test this right now. And then a country GM just didn't listen, went ahead and tested,
And it
proved
worked.
that it worked. It worked. So we started scaling the concept, did the right investments in tech. And it's amazing because all of the audiences love it. So
Yeah.
the merchant loves it because it brings 30% incremental orders. The courier loves it because they wait very little. You know, the courier wait time is super small, so they can be more productive and do more orders. And the users love it because you know it's just fast and you have use cases that you didn't have before. You know, so it's actually working pretty well. But we're going to scale it, but quality first by far. So that means that it's only for the partners that want to invest to actually being able to deliver that. That's not every partner, you know? But we have big players like McDonald's already
Right.
super excited with it
Yeah.
across the region.
And do you guys charge for it more? For this turbo
Yes,
thing?
yes. So
And it's
there is an
10%.
increase.
And it's 10% of all the orders. I think it's amazing. It's a
No,
great
no.
result. In
In one
Argentina.
country.
Yeah. I get it. It's only
Yes.
on one market. But still,
Yep.
it is a pretty fantastic result. Did you see the news from this week about Swiggy launching? They call it Bolt. They're also launching this Bolt delivery, 10 minutes from McDonald's, from their dark kitchens in the radius of, I think, 1 or 2 kilometers. And you mentioned that this ratio of delivery cost per AOV is pretty good in LATAM. And you also mentioned that it's pretty good in India. And we also know that India is a place where quick commerce startups are pretty good. They're doing pretty well, right? Swiggy is getting investments like crazy, going IPO. Zepto got tons of money this year, last year, not caring about whatever crisis of quick commerce happened in Europe. Zomato is also investing into the vertical. Ola is back
Yep.
into quick commerce. Do you see the same patterns of what you guys are experiencing in LATAM with the news that you might be getting from India?
And we like we're close even to some of them, and we benchmark and we talk a lot. So in some cases, yes, like this ratio that you mentioned, there are some like underlying characteristics that make the model like maybe operationally better in some places. We definitely there's a lot to learn between markets and companies, but at the same time is not the same. It's fairly different, like value propositions where you are competing against it in the different markets. So where we see commonalities is definitely in this because, for example, I'm talking about this ratio of AOBs to delivery, but the AOB in Latam is higher. You have countries like Chile or Brazil where the AOB is pretty big. That's not necessarily the case in India. What they get is like a very cheap delivery, and I think also there's a differentiation there. That is that maybe in Latam you've always been able to like convenience has always been there. So, for example, in a country like Mexico, you're just full of Oxxos and 7-Eleven stores, like you know, and you can get certain level of items pretty
Right.
fast. Well, in India, that like hyper standardization across the board is not that true. So, having a player that can give you certain quality of items and fresh items
Right.
delivered, that is a big component for all of them. You know, across the board with this speed is super transformational. So I think
Right.
that's also a big part that they are seeing this growth. And then the market dynamics are different. Like their financial markets, I mean, is booming in this sense. And So we do believe there's a lot to learn in how they manage the business and what they're achieving. That doesn't necessarily mean that all of the like the valuations and things like that are going to be the same, right?
Right. The dynamics are different, but it's just interesting. First first time when I kind of even caught that potential similarity that you just mentioned. And of course, there are differences. And you rightly pointed out that the environment itself, the base starting line is different, right? And the amount of infrastructure available in India cannot potentially be compared to what it is in Mexico. But still very interesting, and very interesting to see where this turbo journey is going to take the market, because of course it's going to affect the customer habits, right? Do you think the customer will get more picky for convenience, where the time and the variety is going to get more and more and more important for people, and people would be chasing for more? Or where do you see these dynamics moving forward in LATAM specifically? And of course, every market is different, right? We cannot like compare purely apples to apples when you compare Chile and Brazil. Like those are different geographies, different. Everything is different, right? But still, based on the umbrella that you're operating, I'm sure you also see some similarities, right? And what dynamics do you see for the markets moving forward?
No, absolutely, absolutely, and we see a ton of similarities. Like when you hear the stories, it's crazy how they are so similar and went from like finding product market fit to hyper growth to profitability and operational excellence, and around similar times. And what the teams went through, how they experienced it, how they make decisions, the mistakes they made, even though there were some were happening in parallel across different continents. It's fairly similar. It's actually super exciting to see that happening. Regarding trends, absolutely, users are going to become like more demanding. A way to see it is the standards. Just the standards are going to get higher and higher and higher. Like when we started, the idea was, hey, we managed to deliver a restaurant order in 45, 50 minutes. This is
Yeah.
amazing. It's a game changer. It's incredible. And now look what we're talking about, right? And it's all in five years. So I think there is this concept of instant gratification that is a definitely secular trend that is going to come to stay. And you see it across everything. If you want to go back, whatever, 20 years ago, and you want to watch Friends, right? You need to think, okay, it's Tuesday, 8 p.m. I need to like program myself to do it. And then you have this streaming of a series, and then the same with music. And now you can stream your music at any point in time. And this is going to become fairly similar. And you can even check like the sizes of the refrigerators or across the world. And they've been like getting smaller and smaller on average, because you don't need to stock up all the time. And that could be for groceries, for food, for whatever. So it is pretty clear that, or at least the secular trends that we believe in is a couple, no? First is you're going to have like a couple per region or per market or something like that. You're going to have a couple of like big tech brands that are going to be trusted for multiple, like use cases. Like the Amazons of the world, no? And that's going to happen in different regions. Then another big secular trend is going to be like the instant gratification that I just mentioned to you before, and that's just going to keep better. I'm going to look for more products faster with perfect quality, and that's just, and hopefully cheaper, no? So, and these are the strategic trends that would not change. And then the other one is, of course, the AI presence around it, and companies like Rappi are the perfect connection between like AI and the physical world, no? So you should be able, in a seamless way, to just, with a simple message, get what you want in a couple of minutes, or a recommendation, and then listen to that recommendation and order in a few minutes. And we're, of course, already working in all of that stuff.
All true. At the same time, it all comes at the cost. And it's very interesting that Rappi is in this unique position on this geographical location where math might be more pleasant, while in Europe, just the cost of this instant gratification is much higher. And I don't know. I don't know if it's going to spread across the whole world. I wonder whether everywhere it's possible that it's going to be moving into that direction. Because I was a very big believer in quick commerce, and it's not that I'm not. I just think that even 30 minutes, it's pretty quick, and I'm not sure if people will be willing to really pay more, or what kind of scale do you need, right? As you mentioned, there might be the time where it will be, a couple of big multinational conglomerates for whom the economies of scale will be reached, right? And there will be one, two players per market left, and these economics of quick gratification can be viable for them and for the consumer. While it was tested in previous years, it was pretty expensive. So I really wonder if that 20-minute saving or 15-minute saving for somebody will actually move the needle. I can relate in many cases that when I order something, I usually want it fast. I don't want it in 1 hour or 1.5 hour. But still, how much would it cost me? If it would cost me, $30, I would think twice if I'm ordering, like just a couple of chocolates. Uh, so
No, you're sorry. You are no, you are absolutely right. And but I think it's gonna come to a point on when and
yeah,
in some places it's just gonna take much longer. We were just discussing earlier, like the online penetration, grocery penetration in LATAM, that is super small. Like that, of course, is gonna come. It's just
yeah,
like took longer, and then there are like a lot of papers that try to explain why is that happening. But I don't think there's a really like a doubt that that's going to happen. And now you see all of the retailers really
absolutely.
investing on it and going to. So of course we cannot be sure, but I think that's probably where the world is going to move to. In some places that the dynamics are more difficult, and I'm not saying that it's easy like at all in Latam. You need to hit 100 different things at the
Right,
same time for it to
right.
work. And we have some markets and some stores that are already like super profitable, and that the model is going to work, but to do it at scale is super
Right.
difficult. Um, but yeah, at least is where I believe the customer demands are going to be moving towards.
Yeah. It's definitely very difficult. And to manage so many moving parts all the time, it's very difficult. And I really like the examples that you brought in of the, technical moves that you're taking, how to predict the order and how to send the courier there earlier and whatnot, and increasing the number of SKUs. And it's not just LATAM, right, where people are still fighting for this model. It's not just India. Like in the Middle East, for example, Kareem is
Hmm.
making significant steps with their dark store services, and they have around 10,000 SKUs there. And Talaba is moving very strong with Talaba Mart. And still, even in Europe, right, companies like Bolt, Glovo, they still have their dark stores. Volt has the Volt Market. The question is whether, again, it's going to be 10 minutes or 30 minutes. And it's interesting that, that even after a couple of years after the quick commerce boom, when everybody was in the beginning saying that it's never going to work and that nobody needs it in 10 minutes and so on, we're in 2024 and we're still discussing it as a potential edge of delivering earlier and charging customer more, and having the places on earth on the map and the brands who are still investing into this, investing heavily and are having success. I think it is fantastic. And I think it's great that the whole world played this big experiment, investing a lot of money into this and making us customers benefit from it a lot, right? Getting all those promo codes and also getting a cool new service for many marketplaces, right? Who are still running these operations and running them in many cases successfully.
Absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, just to close on that note, think of it as some places like you need a density, no? So in some places it's pretty
Yeah,
obvious that there's an opportunity, and in some places maybe in 10 years it's like, no, you're gonna have the best we can do is 30 minutes, and that's okay for that place. So I think it's just think if you're thinking short term or super long.
for sure. You're a very hands-on operations guy, right? You started as a city manager and then you grew inside the company pretty quickly, consistently, and I'm sure that all your career was connected with different metrics. And I'm sure that the metrics that you were tracking as a city manager are way different from the metrics that you're tracking now. Could you please share what do you think is important to track, and what do you track on weekly, daily, or monthly basis for the retail and or restaurant categories that you're running in Rappi?
Sure. And I would actually say that this is probably true for the business in general and how we run it. But so our North Star is order rate that I mentioned earlier. That is user retention multiplied by the user frequency. Because if you build sufficient order rate, then the business like reaches a point where that compounding effect just becomes this like snowball, and the company grows on its own. No, so that's like the North Star. And then, of course, you have like key output metrics that are obviously volume, so order growth, average order value, the Rappi Pro adoption. Rappi Pro is our subscription loyalty program. And of course, like EBITDA and unit economics, right? But how we actually run the business is making sure that we hit our key input metrics, right? That's and you need to trust that if you hit the key input metrics, the output is going to come. And then if it doesn't come, you iterate because you probably don't have the right inputs, right? And these input metrics are usually like the essential components of our flywheel. So, for example, assortment. Do you have all the merchants our customers are looking for? And are we growing fast the number of merchants? Conversion. Are users converting well in each step of the funnel? Are they finding the stores, finding the products and the add to carts? Then are they like checking out? So are the prices right? And then you switch to affordability. So are our users paying the fair prices? What is the average percentage of the fee over the AOV to understand per market and different segments and cities? Does these prices make sense or not? What are the sweet spots there? Speed. So are we delivering faster every week than the week before? So then you have the average delivery times, percentage of orders delivered under X amount of minutes, depending on the vertical. And then, of course, you have quality. That is, are we delivering on time? Or there delays? Are we delivering in full? Or there stockouts? Are we delivering all the orders? So order cancellations, right? And then you also need some KPIs for the audiences. So the courier wait time at the store is super important also for us because that's how we make them more productive. So I would say like roughly that's like the main things we, of course, being honest, like the list is endless, no? Like endless of
Right, of course.
KPIs, but this is like the key things that I think you would really drive the business.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Paulo. It was fantastic pleasure to meet with you today and to have this pleasant conversation. I'm very excited about you guys who listened. I think that we could all learn a bunch and have some good time together. Paulo, thank you. If you would like to address anything to the audience and say something, please do.
No, first of all, thank you, Stefan. Like amazing, as I told you before, we read you a lot at the company, so it was super exciting for me to have the chance to discuss with someone that is such an enthusiast of the industry, of the sector, and you can see it in your eyes, that the fire and the passion. So it's always amazing to find people like that. And now for the audience, hopefully there was even a tiny bit that they could learn from this. And And yeah, and that just just for them to know that, in other some companies, they say, like it's always day one. Well, at Rappi, we haven't even started. That's like a little bit of the mindset, no?
Nice.
So yeah.
Nice. Thank you very much. I'm sure we learned a bunch today together with the audience. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise. And thank you very much for your support, for following. And thank you guys all who listened to that, and all of you for following. Like, subscribe, share this video to spread the knowledge. And thank you. That was super interesting. And don't forget to tip your couriers.
That was a better one, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stefan.
Thank you, Paulo.